Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the Strategic Growth Podcast. I am joined by three guests today that I'm going to introduce in just a second. But first, I'm going to tell you why we're all together, because we all happen to have specialties that are very specifically beneficial to venture capital, the people who invest in businesses and do things like that. We've talked about this on the podcast before, but today, these three individuals that are joining me, we're going to have a conversation about an event that we're having very soon at the Verge OKC for venture capitalists, for investors, angel investors, etc., about all kinds of services and products that they maybe aren't familiar with or utilizing as well as they should be.
Welcome to the Golden Group Strategic Growth Podcast, featuring expert insights, interviews with thought leaders, and business plan triage. Hosted by Kyle Golding, award-winning entrepreneur, CEO, and Chief Strategic Idealist for the Golden Group.
I'm going to quickly introduce the panel. I'm going to give you some more details about that event and what we're going to have a conversation about today. And then I will let each of them introduce themselves and talk about the things that their businesses do that are very beneficial to not just all businesses for sure, but specifically venture capital investors, angel investors, private investors, limited partners, etc. So, of course, I'm your fearless leader. I'm Nick Fury in this operation here because I'm kind of running things just because I own the microphones. Here we've got my man Bobby from Insperity, kind of our Iron Man, if you will. He's got the great products and services. This was his idea to get this going, and much like Tony Stark, he pays for stuff and makes us look good. We've got Brad over here. Brad is your friendly neighborhood banking guy, which is, of course, very similar to our friend the Spider-Man.
There you go.
And much like a spider web, he's a connector. He brings things together. So more about Brad in a minute. And we've got Corey over here as well. Corey is our Hawkeye. Okay. He stays calm under pressure and he never misses. So that's the team. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to make sure, I'm going through my notes here and make sure that we get all this specific for you guys. We're hosting an event called the Capital Growth Support Services for Venture Investors Happy Hour. That's a mouthful. I know that was a lot, right? So I'm going to explain what that means for anyone listening. If you're a venture capitalist, if you are in the investing world, right now you're saying, oh, I'm going to listen to this podcast episode. If you're our typical podcast listener, there's a lot of information that these guys are going to share with you that you will want to know as well. So don't tune out just because it's so VC specific. But that event's going to happen October 12th at the Verge OKC. You guys should know the Verge down in Bricktown. Our friend Kristen Garcia is going to hook us up there. Kristen's the other part of this team. She's our Black Widow, if you will, for the super team that we've put together for this event. So our venture capital happy hours introduce professional services to investment companies that are outside the standard accounting, legal, and marketing support that most startups get when they receive an investment from venture capital. These services can add value to the VC's offer sheet and increase the potential for success in their business portfolio. We're going to help you run the companies you invest in better, more effectively, efficiently, something that Brad and I talk about a lot, and more securely so that you have a better opportunity to recoup that investment and to watch those startups really blossom into very profitable business. We all know venture capital is not just writing checks, right? Only in movies do VCs just write checks and go away. VC firms, limited partners, individual investors offer support, connection, and expertise for the startups and early stage companies in their portfolios. And to better support those investments, we've curated a specialized list of additional services and products to assist those business activities in key areas critical to venture capital that they may not have in-house or already have secured. Human resources, treasury services, strategic planning, audience development, fractional leadership, and talent recruiting and retention are some of the topics we're going to talk about today. You guys ready to go?
Ready.
All right, the first 5 minutes I've dominated the conversation, so I'm going to turn over to our Iron Man / Tony Stark, Bobby from Insperity. Tell everyone what Insperity is, does, and for those who don't know, it's a great brand. Everyone should know what you guys do. But then let's talk about specifically your venture capital specific products and services.
Well, thank you, Kyle. I appreciate that. So Insperity is considered a PEO. For those who might not know what that is, a professional employer organization. We help small to mid-sized businesses, including startups, with HR infrastructure, with benefits, and risk mitigation. So whether they're, again, a startup or part of a VC or, been in the business for a while, all companies can benefit from streamlining their services. So specifically in the venture capital world, cost containment is one of the things we talk about with our clients. Administrative offload, I'll dig in a little more deeply in that. I think probably one of the most important things is just risk mitigation. Starting up a new company, there are a lot of risk involved, and we want to help with reducing those risks. And then just enhance HR as well too. So those are the four main topics that we can hit on.
I find startups, the last thing that a growing company from startup to growth stage, the last thing they typically bring on because it's so confusing and the potential to really screw themselves up is HR.
I agree with that. Yeah, it's not really front in their mind to begin with. So yeah, it's something they don't really think about.
It's something that it doesn't generate sales, and it's not real sexy, but it's essential.
It is essential because it also helps with culture as well too.
Right.
So you either have a culture by default or a culture by design. So we can help create that culture by design. And that includes things like, putting in a really good benefit.
Yeah.
So we're, mostly with venture capital type companies, we're talking about in-stage funding where they have employees in place, products in place. They're getting that ball rolling in that capacity, and then now they're looking for onboarding the employees, which I know you'll talk about that in a few minutes, Corey. But then, how do you keep those really good employees? So having good benefits. So working with the PEO like Insperity, you're able to offer Fortune 500 benefits. Companies that have large employers offer today have really good benefit plans in place, and we can make that happen for small companies as well too.
Is there a number of employees that are your target?
Great question. We have to have 5 employees on board before we
still a very, very small company.
It is. Yeah, it is very small. I have a success story. We work with the company here locally. It's in the medical field. Started with like 3 employees. They're up to like 30 employees today. Wow. So that's another important aspect, is being able to scale as the companies grow and maybe even retract in employees as well too. So we have the flexibility to be able to grow up and down as the company grows, or maybe even retracts.
And in fact, Insperity has a specialist, a venture capital specialist, who is really focused on helping businesses like this.
Yeah, so we are in every state, United States today. That's also something that's important to know, that we can work with different state rules, laws, and compliance issues. And we do have a specific department at our headquarters in Kingwood, Texas, that works specifically with VCs and private equity.
Excellent.
Yeah. Other questions?
I'm looking forward to hearing this conversation and getting a better understanding of how, like I said, something that people want to do last, HR and benefits and all those things, but how it's essential to at least start thinking about it early, if not starting to implement it as early as possible.
I agree with that. Yeah, because again, I think it comes back to culture. Are you hiring the right people? Are you keeping the right people?
And I think we all know culture is essential these days. Yeah.
So, are you performing employee evaluations correctly? All those things that we can help with to make sure that you're keeping those people on board.
Right. Yeah. That's Bobby Stewart, Business Performance Advisor at Insperity. Next, we're going to talk to Brad Willis, your friendly neighborhood banking guy, who's a recent convert to banking. He was a friendly neighborhood insurance guy for many, many years before that as well.
Just a few.
Right. And recently, I was in the room with a conversation you were hosting and some other people that work at your bank about things like Treasury Services and some other things that your bank and lots of banks do, but a lot of businesses are not taking advantage of. There's lots of opportunities for them to be more effective, more efficient, more secure in their transactions.
Right. Yes, old insurance guy, just 32 years. So I'm a risk manager. So what we all represent are some of those cornerstones of growing and developing and sustaining a business. So what venture capital is, they're trying to get the ball rolling. They're trying to get something starting from nothing to this big adventure. And it's when I opened up my own business, I worked for a multi-billion-dollar company, corporate side, for about 18 years, and then converted, did something wild and crazy, and opened up my own shop at the age of 45. So, being in insurance, I'm a risk manager, and that's not sexy, it's not glamorous, but it keeps things moving.
But it's essential.
And it's very essential. And
we got a theme going here. Not sexy, not sexy, but essential.
Yeah, but it's those cornerstones, and there's about 10 of them. And the ones that are very important, I'd say the top 5, you got to look at having a business attorney. You got to have a great CPA. HR is, once you get to 2 or 3 employees, you need to start talking about it, because that's where you can either get your in trouble, or it can close the business.
Right.
Banking, I think the bank came to me and said, hey, you want to join the team? Because I don't think like a banker.
Right.
I think like a small business owner.
Right.
And I think they appreciate that. I think the people that I'm introducing them to and I go out and meet with understand that I'm not talking numbers. I'm not talking about rate. I'm building relationships and trying to help them on their way as an old business owner.
Now, when I hear the term Treasury Services,
Yeah.
it could be an intimidating term. It could seem like you have to be some big corporation to take advantage of something like Treasury Services.
Yeah, it's not trading treasuries.
Right.
That's what people think. And if they have any idea, it's basically cash flow management. So it's moving money. I mean, most people aren't like old man Willis here and still have this
He's pulling cash out
this
of
green stuff.
Wow.
I still have that, and look, it's old, it's moldy. Most money moves from left to right up here in this cloud.
And the ones and zeros, right?
Yeah. So protecting that is paramount. And that's what Treasury Services does. Technology has created many, many different, opportunities, businesses. And it's allowed the banking industry to evolve. It's no longer just deposits and lending. The Treasury Services helps small businesses get off the ground.
Right.
And if you want to do it and safeguard yourself, fraud happens every day.
And fraud online and digital fraud happens every second.
Yes. Embezzlement happens.
Right.
So why not bring in a partner that can help you become more efficient, more effective, lower your cost, increase your revenue, and do it at a higher level of safety? Any of those sound bad?
Right.
I mean, and how it can help in regard to efficiency and effectiveness. Say your business, they devote 40 hours a week in that administrative function, and those folks do great things. They keep the business running, but they have nothing to do with revenue.
Right.
It's pure cost.
Yeah.
So say you could take, and this is a very small example, say you could take 10 or 15 hours of that pure cost and move it up to revenue generating. So it's going to help a business grow.
Right.
And it's going to help sustain the business, because you're less likely to have fraud occur in your business if you bring in that business partner, like a bank,
right,
that has Treasury Services, and they're very good at what they do, because that's all they do.
Everyone who's ever started a business has been told you have a relationship with your banker, and you need to have an attorney and a CPA. And this is not just having a relationship with your banker, but the depth of a relationship you can have with your bank in 2023 that wasn't available 10, 20, 30 years ago, but it is available today, and people should be taking advantage of it.
Well, and that's, I built a business on relationships in an industry that was commoditized. I found a cool little lane to play in. And when the bank came and said, hey, join the team, I sought, those tools that the banking industry has, my bank has, and is very good at it. And so the reason Treasury Services was on the top of my list was you're helping a business 365 days a year.
Oh, right.
Alone is alone is alone.
Right.
And it happens when it happens. And it can be structured to be beneficial. It can be structured to where it's not. It could be stood behind, or not. So you need to be cognizant of who you bring into your camp that's a business partner. But the Treasury Services so impactful every day, not just when you need a loan, when you go buy something.
Sure.
So, and it's a relationship.
It's business operations. It's literally, like you said, every day, like every function of your
accounts
business.
Payable,
Right.
accounts receivable.
The whole point of running a business is to bring money in.
You hope to God that those are happening every day.
You bring it in, and then you put a little bit of it out, and what you have left over, you want to keep secure.
Yeah. And the one other component in regard to efficiency.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why you're in business.
That's right, exactly. That's the point of business.
The efficiency factor is, besides bringing that partner to take away some of those hours that you're spending, and you do cost benefit analysis, make sure it is the right move and right decision. Sure. There's 10 or 12 different tools. You might start off scaling. You might start off with 2 or 3 of them that help with the safety factor. And then as the business grows, the relationship grows. And if you're having a difficult time with staffing, in that administrative world, hiring and firing, you don't have to do that if you bring in that bank partner. You have 1, maybe 2 people working in it. You have the bank that does some of the heavy work. So you don't have to spend all your time developing.
And the bank is going to not just have high standards for customer service value, but they have high standards they have to live up to for everything they do as a bank.
It's somewhat regulated.
Right.
Just a little.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
FDIC says you need to, the
gotta
safety level,
right.
You got to do it way up here.
Right.
Most small business owners are kind of shooting from the hip and hoping to God, and may lose a little sleep thinking, oh God, I hope I'm doing this right. Why not bring in the expert that does it right?
Now, when you do need to bring staff on, we need to hire and fire, retain, etc. You want to talk to someone like Corey. He is the principal at Insight Partners, a boutique staffing, recruiting, and retention agency. So, Corey, jump on what these guys are talking about and give us some of your technology focus and small business and management focus, and why those things when hiring and retention is so important to a small business that's getting started, that's just taking a little bit of money from an investor, whether it's VC or private, and they're trying to grow in great ways.
Yeah, great question. And I think this is a good bolt-on to Iron Man. You forgot Hawkeye, by the way. So my name's Corey Walker. I'm with Insight Partners. We're a boutique recruiting firm here in Oklahoma City, focus on talent here in Oklahoma. Most of our business actually is in Oklahoma City. And we started the firm really to be different. So we offer a variety of different services, but services that are very specific to small to medium-sized companies or VC-backed firms. As we offer staff augmentation. So if you have a special project, we need to get an ERP system implemented, we can help you with that. I would say the one that's really been more the cornerstone is an RPO model, where we're actually the recruiting department for your firm. So we actually provide all of the services all the way to the hire. Then we let Iron Man take over. So, we definitely, but I think
you have some guarantees with hires too. Like you're not just hiring random people off the streets from a want ad, right? You're really working through the process in a specialized way to, much like what Brad's doing on the banking side, really make sure that a small business that probably couldn't afford someone of your skill level in-house to work third party for them.
Absolutely. So we've designed a flexible financial model that aligns with our clients' cash flow, as well as a guarantee period that's usually 3 times the industry average. So if somebody leaves within that guarantee period, we replace that person at no cost. So we find that it takes, a minimum of 90 days, usually up to a year, to find out if somebody's a true performer. And as we all know, the cost of turnover is astronomical, 1.5 to 2 times a person's given salary, and also the amount of information that's leaving, with that person as well. So definitely agree with everything from a cultural standpoint, very critical. But I think also it makes us a little different is our accuracy. So a lot of recruiting firms out there just kind of do business with everybody. We're very selective on who we do business with. And about 95% of our candidates get a first round interview as well. So we really take the burden off of our client. The average search right now can take you 40 to 80 hours. We're taking that on ourselves. There's a lot less risk, and our services are generally a lot more streamlined, kind of get you to the candidate a lot faster. And our specialization also is bringing talent to Oklahoma. So I came here kicking and screaming from Austin, Texas, but love it here. Wouldn't change anything about it.
We've converted him.
We've converted.
Made him a Sooner.
And we specialize in bringing talent. We just had a hire that came from New Mexico recently, one from New York, one from Austin. So Just because you don't think the talent's here doesn't mean we can't get it here. And I think also you're seeing a lot of headlines about layoffs, but matter of fact is we're really at zero unemployment for anyone that has a bachelor's degree. I think it's at 2.4% or 2.5, but that's relative zero.
Right.
So despite what you're hearing in the news, a lot of that talent may not be here. And so you really have to have a specialized plan to attract and retain those people.
A lot of venture-backed businesses are tech.
Yep, absolutely.
And so they need very specialized talent, and then sometimes they can grow exponentially overnight.
Absolutely.
So having a partnership with someone like yourself makes a ton of sense for businesses in that space.
Absolutely. And we also have a model where we work with the executive team, really focus on what do you need in for employee 3 versus employee 50. Because employee 3 needs to probably be more of a jack of all trades in technology versus an employee group of 50. So we work with the team to really understand. And a lot of times when we work with an executive, they may think they want a laundry list this long of things. We have to tell them what they can A, afford, and B, what's available.
You got to be realistic.
Yeah, you got to be realistic.
So now you can see how a lot of the conversation that each of these individuals are going to have in the room when we get together next month at The Verge is very specific to venture capital and very specific to the audience who is going to be participating with us at The Verge and The Verge itself, because there's several VCs that are housed under their roof as well. Now, you guys know me. You listen to the podcast. You know my thing is strategy, strategic planning, business process management, marketing integration. You guys know all about that. I talk about that on the podcast all the time. But two other things I'm going to talk about at this event, and I'm going to focus on because it's a VC specific, is audience development and fractional leadership. Audience development it's obvious what it is and why it's necessary, right? But how you do it is a grand mystery. And it's one of the more fun things I think in life is trying to figure out the exact right audience when a product or service or a brand is brand new. It's very easy for Coca-Cola and Pepsi to say, oh, we know who our audience is, and maybe here's some sub-audiences we could go after at the same time. But for a brand new audience, for a brand new business that hasn't started that process, who hasn't developed these things, and they have a vision in their head of what they would like it to be, sometimes it's not, right? When you get into the real world, who your audience really is isn't who you intended it to be or who you thought it would be. Especially often I find if the CEO thinks they're the target. I started this business for people like me. And sometimes it's people like them, and sometimes it's someone completely different. And of course, if you're a smart business person, you go where the opportunity is. So I think audience development and having a neutral outside third party who can help you in that process, the same way it's beneficial for having a neutral third party help you with your strategic planning and your process development, because it's not about office politics. It's not about how much extra work am I creating for me, but what's right for the company, what's right for the investors and for the people supporting it, and why it's essential for the company to get off the ground correctly and start those first sales, start making money, start making profit, and get into profit mode as quickly as possible in order for the initial investment from our VC friends to start to look very strong and then start to pay off. So I think audience development and strategy and all those things are essential. It's one of the reasons that I was super excited when you said, hey, we should do something for right. VCs. But something else that I don't think VCs think about a lot, and it's something that's become more and more important in our service portfolio recently, is what's called fractional leadership or interim CEO or a CMO. A lot of startups will hire interim CTOs, not my specialty, but there are a lot of people out there that do it. Our friends at CFO Now can do a lot of accounting things that are very specific on an interim basis and doesn't have to make that long-term commitment to bring on a C-suite type individual, someone with experience, knowledge, connections, relationships that can help a business grow rapidly, that can build corporate culture, that can build a team, continue on with that audience development, understand your position in the industry, how to really not just develop a strategy, but implement it, make the adjustments necessary while it's happening, and then get it to a respectable enough level, or at least a stable enough level, where the company itself, the startup, and of course the folks backing it can decide, is that person, do we want to keep that person? Or it was an interim role, it was a fractional role anyways, and now maybe we're going to let a founder who's been leading this whole, or learning through this whole process take over the CEO role, or someone else that they can bring in maybe who has enough experience to run now that the company is at that level, who couldn't build it, but they are able to, and they can pay them a little bit less, and don't have and can take their time with the process too. Hiring a CEO isn't something you want to do in a week, right?
I agree.
Hiring any C-suite, CMO, CEO, CTO, even if it's well established or it's the first time you're hiring it, you want to take your time with that, right? Talk a little bit about the not rushing into making very high executive hires and being more thoughtful in that process, because I think that dovetails into use of fractional C-suite.
Absolutely. Highly recommend people use a fractional leadership for that transition period. I think you can get lured by the resume a little bit. Oh, they work for so-and-so company. They're going to make these game-changing changes for us, but you've got to make sure the person fits in your company, not the other way around. You can't a lot of times hire a CEO and then figure out later, oh, well, they're not quite the right fit. So absolutely, train and definitely hire slow. And also having that outside perspective, I think, is really critical, and having them also meet people that aren't just in the company. Because, for instance, if you were the fractional CEO, you would have a lot of knowledge that other people may not internally.
Right.
So, absolutely.
Another reason I want to make sure that I bring up some of these ideas in our conversation with venture capital on October 12th.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'd like to add about that, bringing somebody in like that CFO is, from a personal standpoint, I met with and spoke with hundreds of small business owners, and they don't know what they don't know.
Right. The age-old problem.
They want to go build this neat, shiny new thing that changes the world. They want to go build cabinets. They want to build the best cabinets they can, but they know nothing about running a business and growing a business and sustaining a business in those different levels. I mean, it can start early. There's a lot to learn about running a business.
Sure.
And if you don't have that experience and knowledge from previous world, you need to bring in that help.
You can
that
be
cornerstone.
Yeah, you can be working in the business when you should be working on the business.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned those cornerstones. I need to write a book one of these days and be about those 10 cornerstones. And a CFO, a coach, that's one of those cornerstones, because you got to get to that next level.
And I find a lot of venture-backed startups, often the founder is someone with a very specific background, often technical, or has the idea, but isn't necessarily someone who's built and run multiple businesses.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's where marrying someone with an idea, great vision, maybe a great technical ability, along with some leadership, along with some support in HR and in banking and in recruiting and retention and all those things that are a little bit perplexing to some business people, is essential at that early stage. And it's super critical for our venture capital friends to start to see benefits and ultimately return on their investment if you can combine those things. So hiring in third party, bringing in coaching, whatever's necessary to help the founder and the people who started this idea that's now become a business, that's now become an investment, become profitable and then sustainable. So that's the conversation we're going to have. Again, Thursday, October 12th at the Verge OKC, 3:30 to 4:30 will be that conversation. A little bit of the introduction we did today, we will do again in the room. Each one of our experts here give about 5 minutes about the topics that they talked about today, and then we'll have the rest of the time to network for each of us to have direct conversations with anyone in the room, answer questions, hand out cards, and create those relationships that are so essential and make ourselves available to everyone in the room, because of course, an hour after you leave or 2 days after you leave, you'll have more questions again. But we want to make sure that you guys show up and join us at the Verge OKC, 3:30 to 4:30, Thursday, October 12th. At the end of that, at 4:30, we're going to go downstairs to the Oklahoma Craft Brew House, and Insperity is sponsoring a happy hour. So we'll have a little bit of learning, a little bit of networking, a happy hour, and some more networking, and ultimately putting a lot of people in the room who are supporting the ecosystem and just having conversations, building relationships, and bringing some new ideas, some new opportunities, some new ways of thinking to a very traditional approach, which is venture capital and private investing. So hope you guys check that out. Make sure that you go to our website, website, thegoldengroup.com. There'll be a page on there about it. I'll be sending out emails and all that good stuff. And of course, links in the show notes to that event and to all of my friends here on the panel. And then one last shout out to Kristen Garcia at The Verge OKC for being our host. And our friends in Tulsa will get up to you eventually. So appreciate each of you coming on, having the conversation today. I super appreciate you participating in this event and future events like this and sharing your knowledge and information and helping the business community in Oklahoma City.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Golden Group Strategic Growth Podcast. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Follow the Golden Group on social media. For more information, past episodes, or to contact us, please visit thegoldengroup.com.